Hey traders, welcome to the Stock Trading Show. This is a look at the week ahead. As always, the video is not financial advice and it's for entertainment and educational purposes only. Always do your own research. Okay, let's take a look at the news events. This is a huge week for the market. Tuesday, that CPI data comes in, which is going to create some interesting waves in the market. And then PPI data on Wednesday, and then the big data is going to be the Fed meeting on Wednesday. 2 o'clock, and then Powell speaks at 2:30. So, that's the huge event. That's the event that's going to really move the market and determine if we move higher or we pull back below that 460 and kind of see what happens there. Thursday, retail sales. Normally, that might be of interest, but, it falls on the same week as that Fed data, Fed meeting, and that CPI data, and those two data points are really what's going to drive the market. And then Friday, we've got unemployment and wage data. But again, PPI data and then the Fed meeting is really going to be the major driver this week for the market in terms of news. So, weekly review, the S&P 500 hit a 2023 high on Friday, highest it's been all year. NASDAQ is right behind it, right on the cusp of a new high. Number of stocks are trying to move out and move up, including some chip plays, which is what we'll talk about. The market rally looks ready to run, but again, that Fed meeting is kind of what everything hinges on. Also, bullish sentiment is already pretty elevated. So that with the Fed meeting, means maybe some elevated risk this week in terms of entries. Just don't know. Now, after Tuesday in that Fed meeting, it's going to get really interesting. But again, the market's already very bullish. You add in that Fed meeting, we could go into runaway mode and, see new all-time highs. Who knows by the end of the week? I don't know. We could see it go in parabolic if the Fed meeting is interpreted positively by the market. Pair that with the already bullish sentiment and everybody talking about a Santa rally, we could skyrocket. Alternatively, market could really sour if that Fed meeting goes unexpectedly bad in terms of the Fed's hints about what they're going to do about interest rates. So very interesting here. Tuesday is where everything hinges again. On the daily, we are right there at 460, which is the level we were watching last week. Here's last week's chart. We're on that 460 mark now, you can see. And so this week, again, that Fed meeting's going to determine if we break out above it or reject down below it. And if we reject down beneath it, you have to think we close this gap at least. We'll see. Okay, take a look at the 30-minute chart. Again, we've been paying a lot of close attention last week to that consolidation. We were thinking, that lens, generally when we see that, that's an indicator that number one, there's not a lot of sellers, but there's also not a lot of people buying. And the people who are buying, it's careful buying. So it's funds who are buying. They're purchasing carefully at preferred prices, and they're accumulating shares. And so that's probably what was happening. Again, S&P 500 cleared its 2023 high that had previously set in July. And again, the NASDAQ is set on closing high for the year as well. So again, a decisive clearing of that range that we've been watching would suggest a market rally is underway, and we're going to get another leg higher. Again, my thinking is we'll move up to 480. Again, Fed meeting. We'll see. Bitcoin, last week we were wondering if we would continue to get a parabolic increase, right? Parabolic or pullback. Was that price going to keep shooting up, or would we get a pullback, take a breather? And this week, we indeed did get a breather. You can see the price action there. The fact that we didn't pull back hard, though, but instead went sideways suggests to me that the buyers dried up, but at the same time, there aren't any sellers. Generally speaking, these type of consolidation patterns, it's a continuation pattern. And so we'll likely see that price make another move higher towards that 48,000 mark. And that's what I'm thinking as far as, my trading plan with my Bitcoin holdings. NVDA, the AI market is really driving chip stocks. So we're watching stocks like NVDA, NVIDIA, AMD, ARM, and TSM, those chip stocks. NVIDIA's price dropped after that November 21st earnings report, and you can see that come in here, but it found support at the 50-day. So I don't have the 50-day map, but right here is a 50-day moving average. And so, it bounced off of that. Seems like there's a nice support zone right there, and moving back into my buy zone, which is right here. So if NVIDIA stock gets back above that 476 price, then, for me personally, my buy zone would go from about 476 to about 499 is an attractive price to buy as we approach, again, that resistance line, which maybe we can break out of that. So, watching NVIDIA closely. Apple, this one was super obvious. You had this bull flag, break out of the bull flag, and we had consolidation. And what we wanted to know was after this consolidation, were we going to break out of that and move higher? Again, these tight trading zones and consolidation patterns, they're almost always, well, I shouldn't say always, but they're frequently continuation patterns, right? Market's taking a breather. We're watching consolidation. And sure enough, that price action broke out of that consolidation. And, price action's probably going to 198. And that's where we see that next resistance level because of that prior high from July. So kind of watching this one kind of closely. And then obviously after 198, you've got that psychological level of 200. So, Apple would have been a really nice flyer entry in that consolidation zone. I did see some people online talking about how, this is probably, this consolidation, this flag is, it's probably actually going to drop and sell off. And their reasoning online, some of these Twitter folks, was the indicators. We had bearish divergence between the indicators and the price action. And I personally don't put a lot of weight into indicators. They always seem to be lagging, and I'm a levels and price action guy with a little bit of reference to moving averages. Outside of that, I don't really watch the indicators. The only two indicators I watch to some degree are RSI and Bollinger Bands, and even those I don't really use very often. I use those when I'm trying to determine if a stock is due for a pullback, and if I should just wait for a pullback to get an entry. And if we're at an overbought zone on the RSI or on the Bollinger Band, I might just wait. Say, I'd like an entry on this stock, but I'm going to wait till we get a pullback. But anyways, this seemed like a pretty obvious setup right here. Okay, Adobe, another one we were watching last week, trying to figure out, hey, what was it going to do? Was it going to pull back, right? Because it had pulled back after breaking out of that flag and pulled back underneath, and kind of wondering, all right, is it going to pull back? My hypothesis was actually it was going to move back over that zone and then find new support there and move up. And so that was last week's chart. This week, yes, we did seem to find some support, and we're pulling back out of that level. So, hopefully, for me, this was my hypothesis, and that seems to be what's happening. But we'll continue to watch that. Okay. Lastly, my watch list. Other stocks we're watching, Palantir and URI. We were watching those last week. Both of them took pauses or pullbacks at key levels this week. So Palantir pulled back from that key level, was waiting to see if that broke out above. It did not. It rejected below. So Palantir, kind of waiting to see if that comes back further, can move back above. URI, that took a pause. You can see the weekly candle there just took a pause right on that key level. So not really an entry there. DHI, we broke out over that. So this one was one we were definitely watching if it could break out over resistance, like we were watching Palantir and URI. But DHI did indeed break out. And so maybe we can get a pullback, or if it's possible, we're going to see how much higher that ends up moving, but might be make an entry on that this week now that we've got a breakout on not too bad a volume. Meanwhile, Tesla continues to trade tightly while slowly advancing towards its own aggressive entries, right? So it's gonna run to that trend line, and so an aggressive entry the hypothesis would be it's gonna break out over that trend line. We're gonna get the next leg up in terms of the bull run on Tesla, and so an aggressive entry would be yeah, we're about to get a breakout here in a bull run. It's aggressive because you can see where that, how it's behaved with that trend line before. It's rejected down. So, of course, you could, in my opinion, I may take an entry here on a small, I don't know, 10 shares or something. And then if it rejects down beneath it, cut my, put a stop loss under that candle. Or, make the assumption that, hey, it is gonna break out over that. Again, this kind of entry really is probably going to depend on that Fed meeting. If the Fed meeting goes and, hey, it looks like we're going to not pause, but just, maybe hint at rates being adjusted downward sooner rather than later, probably Tesla with the rest of the market rockets, right? Tesla has got a nice pattern setting up here. Would be very interesting for an entry. It's similar to to this one next to it, AMD, right? In this downward channel, right? Bull flag, really, because you had this bull run, then it pulled back, multi-week pullback, and then it broke out over it. Tesla could do something very similar, right? And then that level, if it can break out over that level right there would be your next resistance. And then AVGO, watching that, it pulled back to its breakout line. Seems to found support maybe at that breakout line. So if we get a weekly green candle here, probably I'll take an entry on that one. So anyways, those are some charts I'm watching this week. Could be really interesting. Happy trading this week, everybody. And, obviously watching that Fed meeting. And that's kind of the big story of the week. Talk to you later. Thanks. Like and subscribe. Bye.